What's
How
up,
you doing?
man?
What's
Sorry about
up?
that, man. Good,
All good.
good.
Wow, this is truly an honor.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you keep reaching out, man. I appreciate that, man. I've been a big fan of your work for a while, man. I've been watching After School for so long. I had no idea who was behind it, man. I just love when you watch it and you listening to what's happening, it just kind of takes you on a voyage, you know?
Wow. Well, that means a lot coming from you.
You hear me? Did I cut out?
Yeah, you froze for a sec, but I think it's
Oh,
still working.
all right, hold on.
Yeah,
Let me
yeah, it
figure
worked.
something out here. Yeah, let me get closer to my back. Yeah. All right, cool.
So
Yeah,
you're
man. I've
you're in
been
Florida,
a
huh?
fan for so long, man. Yeah, I'm in Florida. Yeah,
Yeah, it looks nice out there.
yeah. It's so nice, so nice. Perfect weather.
I'm in California, San Diego, and it's storming right now.
Oh man, San Diego. I thought they say it never rains in Southern California.
Yeah, we're all freaking out about it. We don't know how to handle it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
But
That's
man, I
hilarious.
gotta give you full disclosure. I've never done a podcast before. So
Yeah,
this is like episode
this is
one
first.
of something I don't even know. I wanted to make a podcast, but I didn't want to just make another, you know, something that just was another brick in the wall. So
Right.
but you said you wanted to have a conversation, so I was like, I really need to get my act together.
But it's good though, man. I think it's a perfect opportunity because it works as a it can be a thing for you. You know, you got great content at the same time you can then spin that content and do what you do best.
Thank you, man.
You know.
Well, I guess I should be conscious of the viewers and I should introduce you. So today we have a special gift and a treat. It's an honor and a privilege. We have Rashad Evans. He's a former UFC light heavyweight champ. He was the winner of Ultimate Fighter Season 2. He was also a coach on the Ultimate Fighter, and he was inducted into the UFC Hall of Fame in 2019. And he's made a recent return back to fighting in Eagle FC. And he's recently also started this mushroom venture called Umbo, right?
Yep, Umbo. Yep.
Yeah, Umbo, my bad. So hopefully we can get into all that. But I guess my first thing I wanted to talk about is that, you know, me watching you over the years, my first memories of you was as a UFC badass in the cage. And then lately I've been hearing it seems like you've had this spiritual awakening. So I really want to hear
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah, man. It's been an interesting journey, the transition from being a fighter to the rest of my life was something that I never th- I never think I could have gotten ready for, even if I would have known what was in store, just because that transition from, being in the limelight, having that walk into the cage and just living that fight life is just so different than, the rest of my life and trying to find a way to uh decompress without hitting something, right? And not trying to sound like I'm a violent person, but when you get used to just kind of um, you know, enduring hardships in life and then finding a way to transmute that hardness into something that is like something like fighting, then that's what you get used to. But when you don't have that anymore, then it's like, all right, so now what am I gonna do,
100%. So maybe basically after you stopped fighting, you kind of had to look inward. So
Absolutely.
what was that journey like?
It was a hard journey. I'm not gonna lie to you because um I didn't know that I had to look inward, but I felt as if like whatever I was doing, it wasn't working. And I was reaching a point where I was having so much depression. I, you know, even had thoughts of suicide and just, very thoughts of, a lot of thoughts of like just feeling unworthy and just like what was it all about? Because the way the whole thing comes about as far as like being launched and having that that spotlight, you start to get so used to it, you think that's just the way life is, and you start to think, you know, different about life, and then before you know it, you start to really uh, absorb and adapt to this image, this idea of who, people who think you are, and then when it's over, you got to reconstruct yourself because, you know, everything changes. People treat you different, and you feel different in yourself, and there's a huge transformation, huge shift that happens, and it was hard to go through because I didn't believe that I was finished, and I didn't know what the rest of my life had in store for me. So there was a lot of fear around that too. Fighting is something I've become to know for the last 20 or so years. So when I was thinking about leaving the sport, it was a hard decision for me.
Wow, that's thank you for sharing that. And I mean, it's wild to hear you say that because to me and many others, you were at the top of the mountain. And to hear you say that you had those thoughts that we can all relate to, it's
Yeah.
inspiring and humbling. But I guess, you know, was there a point that you thought about giving up, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, there was times where I thought about giving up, and I was just kind of feeling like, I felt like if I can't fight anymore, then I really don't have any value anymore. And I had to really start to think about what did I want my next few years to really bring, and what did I want out of the rest of my life. And I just wasn't ready to give in yet. So when I had to decide on what I was going to do with the rest of my life, um, I decided to take a trip and try this modality, one of the most powerful entheogens in the world, 5-MeO DMT, and that experience right there was one that, it was my awakening. It really uh, led me to see a part of myself and see perspective in my existence beyond this physical form that I truly never knew existed. I mean, I've I've heard about it before when you listen to some of the smartest people and some of the most Alan Watts and Eckhart Tolle and some of the greatest sages. They speak about this oneness and this unity and this whole um conscious level and just this oneness of everything. And it's like, all right, I can kind of see it right before I had the experience. I can kind of understand that just through a conceptual basis, but it's a total different feeling between having an understanding conceptually speaking versus having an understanding, hands-on first-hand experience, and having hands-on first experience and having a chance to be in that space. It was a life-changing experience for me.
Wow, that's awesome. um, yeah, all the interviews I've heard, I've listened to a bunch of your podcasts lately, and it just seems like you have such a broad perspective on everything. You can see things from so many different angles. And is that something that you gain from these psychedelic experiences?
Yeah, it's something that I gain. It's more or less, through me uncovering myself. I really got a handle on um, what my fears were, and what are the things that bind me and keep me from being everything that I want to be. And it all comes down to fear. It all comes down to being afraid to truly let go in every sense of the word. And with me coming into my own and my own understanding, it was about letting go. And there was different levels of letting go. Right when I thought that I let go as much as I can, the medicine told me, no, there's more to let go. And then when I thought that I've reached that total maximum point of letting go, no, there's still more to let go. So it's constantly teaching me that there's always evolution and truly of letting go. And what I come to realize is that the more you let go, the more you realize that you didn't let go at all. And the things that you thought you let go, you never really had to let them go because they were always a part of you. Just the idea that it was something to let go or something that wasn't that's something that's not connected to you is part of this illusion that we call life.
That's amazing, man. I just I'm having a surreal moment because I can't believe you just said that. That's really well said. And I've looked up to you for so long. So, please excuse me and forgive me if I fanboy a little bit
Oh,
because,
it's all good, man.
I'm a huge UFC fan. And yeah, like to hear somebody that I admire so much say these things that are from such a humble perspective,
Thanks,
it
man.
really is inspiring,
Thank
truly.
you, Mark. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So yeah, I saw a clip of you recently where you were talking about why do you fight and what you learn about yourself when you're fighting, and I'd love it if you could speak about that. What do you learn about
Yeah,
yourself when you're fighting?
you know, for me, fighting has always been something that's been a an experience where I get to learn a lot about myself, right? Because every single training camp, every single fight brings different obstacles, and it brings different, um, you know, different elements of myself, you know, uh, and each and every single fight, it seems to always have a theme, and that theme is maybe around what I'm struggling on. And that's one thing I miss the most about fighting is because when I would go to camp and I would have, a certain theme or a certain thing that I'm struggling with throughout camp, and I, use my training as a coping mechanism and and I use that problem or that situation as a as a something to push me to the next level, it helps me to uncover pieces of myself and really break down barriers and the very fabric and the very nature of who I am and what I think I am. And making that walk to the cage is something that, it was uh, a purification, a baptism by fire, if you will, because at that point, there was going to be nobody that was going to feel what was going to happen in the aftermath of that fight but myself. And I had to be willing and ready to deal with everything. So I was wearing everything on my shoulders and I was okay with that. I got to be okay with that. I got to be okay with being the guy out there in the center of the octagon, getting tested, win, lose, or draw, and through those up and down experiences through the cage, I realized that that's the true win, the true blessing of the fight was just to be able to go through that experience alone, just to be able to have a chance to get that part of myself tested and just to have a chance to really focus my energy, focus my mind, focus my heart into something for 10 weeks and see how I come out on the other end. No matter who you are, and I say everyone's a fighter because everyone is a fighter. If you put yourself in a certain mindset for 10 weeks and you say, listen, I'm going to make sure I wake up every single day and I do this run. And then after do this run, I'm going to write 10 affirmations and, 10 things I want to accomplish in my life. And you do that for 10 weeks. By the end of that 10 weeks, you're a changed person. You're a changed person so profoundly so and the person you were just really doesn't exist anymore. But you will realize that it was that test, that 10-week test, and putting yourself to it and putting yourself holding yourself accountable to that level that made you come out on the other end. And that's what I truly miss most about the whole fight game, is just being able to have that time to myself to really dive in.
And that was brilliant. That was like poetry. So you stepped away from the fight game for a while. What made you come back?
What made me come back to the fight game was me just loving it again. I started to do the things that really got me falling in love with the sport. And when it came down to it, it wasn't about having my hand raised. It wasn't even, having money in the bank and all those different things. It was just in the art of being able to do it. Just being able to do it, just a full expression of being able to do it, but also be able to push myself to the point where I had to constantly fight myself. I'll go for runs where I'll be crying because they're so hard. And, the whole time I'm doing it, I'll start thinking to myself, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the best. I'm going to be the best. And it was I against I. It was me pushing myself. It was me, really just 10 toes down and just saying, what the hell with it. I'm going to break myself. I'm going to mentally break myself. And that's what I would try to do. So when it when it came time for me to readjust and kind of see who I was, when I came back from my experience with the toad, I felt so pure in my efforts. I was like, I'm gonna start training again. And the more I started training, the more I started to love it, to the point of how it was before. And I started loving every single aspect of it, because when you love the hard things about life, like when you truly, truly love the hard things about life, and that becomes your favorite part, everything else becomes so much more enjoyable. Everything else becomes so much enjoyable. So for me, I fell so much in love with just the hardest part about the fight game, which is the brutal training. And then it was like, for me to take a fight, I'm like, yeah, I'll take a fight. I'm 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 doing more, I'm doing more than that right now. I'm training with Greg Hardy, who was at the time 300 and something pounds. And, I got a bunch of younger guys underneath him who's coming looking to push me to the max. So I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I can do this because I'm doing it every day and I'm doing it for free. So why not?
Yeah, I just rewatched that the most recent fight you had, and you seemed to just be enjoying it. It didn't seem like there was a pressure or a weight on you. And
Nah,
yeah,
nah, it really wasn't a pressure, but I will tell you this though. I will tell you the walk was different because, you know, um, the 8 hours before, right? The 8 hours before the fight, in the locker room, and I'm sorry, not in the locker room. You're in your hotel room because you haven't made it to the locker room yet, but you're in your hotel room, right? And you're waiting for them to come get you, or until it's time for you to report and get ready to get on the bus and go to to the event, right? So you're sitting there and you're just waiting, right? You ate all the food, you don't really have much of an appetite because your body's getting ready for war, so your appetite is very minimal. And while I was sit there in fight purgatory, I call it fight purgatory. I'm just thinking, like, man, is this what I should be doing? Is this what I should really be doing? And then you have, those red light thoughts, right? Those thoughts that make you, second guess what you're doing. And then I had the also positive thoughts like saying, no, this is exactly what you're gonna do. So after I got done battling myself for a while, I just was going back and forth playing that game. And then I just kind of sat back and I was like, wait a minute, this is it. This is exactly it. This is what I wanted. This is what I wanted. I wanted to go through this point in time where I was feeling the anxiety. I was feeling, you know, happy. I was feeling afraid. I was on the emotional roller coaster. See, that's what it's about, riding that emotional roller coaster and being able to be on it and come out on the other side and produce nothing but gold. And that's what I wanted, and that's what I got. But it was different than I remember, just because I hadn't had a chance to um I haven't had a chance to get uh that kind of challenge in a while. So for me, I kind of felt like it was a long time coming. So when I felt it, it was like super intense, but it was definitely worth it.
Like when you're saying this, I'm like, man, I should step in the cage or something. Like I'd probably learn who I am, you know, but I don't
Um,
know if I could ever do that. You know, there's that other side. And I think a lot of people listening are never going to step in the cage, you know, but
yeah.
what is the value of picking something really difficult or some huge aim and suffering to get to that aim?
Well, it's the beauty of suffering. You see, we're in a society where suffering is looked at as something that we truly want to avoid, but there's something so beautiful on the other side of suffering, and I feel like it's worth going through, because what's on the other side of suffering is a view that you can't see while you're on the other side. And you can't see it because you're not able to let go. But once you've gone through that suffering, and you've had to let go, and how many different phases, and after a while, you're just like, yo, the harder I try, the harder I fight this, the harder it's going to get. So let me just give in. Let me just surrender and see what this has to offer me, and understand that you're going to be okay. See, that's the thing, that we always get to the point where we're going through suffering that's making us feel like we're suffering. We don't know if we're going to be okay. But what I've been able to really understand now is the fact that I'm going to be okay. I may not have the results that I want, but you know what? I'm going to be all right, and I can live with that. But the suffering is something that there's something in it for me. So I feel like with people, you know, try to do something that you suffer a little bit. And when you do things and you're not afraid to put yourself in a position to suffer, then there's nothing that can hold you back in life, because suffering is not even a hindrance to you.
That's brilliant, man. That's gold. I'm getting really motivated right now. I feel like I need to go run like 10 miles. Um, wow, that's a great perspective. And I, do you think that's kind of maybe something that our society is missing right now, is that suffering, the embracing the pain component?
Yeah, I feel it's definitely something that our society is missing. We've got to the point in society where we've tried to uh, minimize, mitigate, and try to prevent suffering from happening, hardships from happening. Um, but there's a lot that can be learned through it. There can be a lot that can be gained through not having your way, through not having things go your way, and through having to figure it out. Because we can't forget what this life's about. This life is a journey. This life is a test. This life is all about being tested on many different levels, and no matter who you are, no matter how successful you are, or how much you struggle, you're always going to have some kind of struggle. I thought once I was had all this money in the world, all the money that I could spend and all these things that I had, I thought life would be easier, but life was a lot harder. I found life was a lot harder than it was when I didn't have any money. So it's not the material things that make life, bearable or not. It's your ability to deal with whatever comes in your way. It's your ability to deal with just being able to say, I'm going to suffer through it. And when you suffer through something, you figure out it wasn't as bad as you thought it was. Sometimes we make a boogeyman out of suffering. And at the end of the day, the only thing there is to it is just to go through it.
That's spot on. And yeah, I think what I've noticed is like we need the mountain in front of us to climb, and when we get to the top, it's kind of like what's left? You keep hearing about all these like celebrities that are going insane and they're losing their minds,
Yeah,
or even John Jones. There was nothing left for him to do at the top,
yeah,
and so he kind of almost had to like self sabotage, self
yes,
destruct, and yeah, it's like you don't want to have everything that you think you want. You want to have like that stress, that you want to have like some friction in front of you. Otherwise, it's
yeah,
like you're not the goal is not what you want. It's like the journey to get to that goal is the enjoyment. It's the ride.
yeah. You're absolutely right, and that's something that I figured out, on my journey was that once I got to where I thought that I wanted to go, I almost felt disappointed just because in my mind's eye, it was so much better than what it actually was in reality, and that was hard for me to kind of be like to kind of wrap my head around at first because I realized that I was happier on the journey. I was more satisfied chasing. I was, I was I always needed to have something to chase, something to go for. And it reminded me of what my football coach used to tell me in high school. He used to say, guys, we're not through improving because once you're through improving, you're through. Once you reach the top of the mountain, only place for you to go is down. And he'll say, just never reach the top. Never reach the top. Keep on reassessing your goals. You know what I'm saying? And that's one of the things that I had to do in the second phase of my life is I had to keep on asking myself the question, what is my why? What is that thing? Why am I doing anything? Because the worst thing to do, and it happened to me, is to be guided by no why and just doing things because at the end of the day, you know, monotonous movements just brings nothing but monotony. And I felt as if like I wasn't really going anywhere because it wasn't anything I could feel because there was no why behind it. Why am I doing this? Why am I going here? Why am I, you know, what's the purpose, And once I became reacquainted with my why, writing it down and just kind of really just examining like what it is I truly want out of life, then I started feeling like I had more purpose out of everything that I was putting my attention to. And then I only put attention to the things that truly fed into that purpose, truly fed into that why. And a lot of times it wasn't even something that I was consciously doing. It was just kind of something that ended up happening because I was staying connected to why I was doing. And that why is something that I have young fighters all the time, and I see him train, I see him doing this, I'm doing that. I'm like, all right, why are we doing this? What do you really want? And sometimes they can answer, but sometimes they look at me blank, like, man, I haven't really thought about it. And sometimes when they get done with a good fight, I'm like, I want you to go and write down how you feel. I want you to really get connected with this feeling. Or even when they have a big loss and they're crying and they're upset, I want you to write it down. I want you to really live in this moment. I don't want you to get out of it. I want you to live in this moment because if you live in this moment now, then you're never going to have to live in it again. Because if you live in this moment now, it's going to be so unbearable. It's going to be so distasteful that you do everything in your power to never feel it again. And that's how you become successful.
Wow. That's brilliant. And I guess I'm not surprised why you built such an awesome team. You know, the it's called Sanford MMA, right?
Well, I was part of that team, but they kind of done their own thing. But I'm kind of starting my own thing now. But I'm still associated with the guys at Sanford. They're still my brothers over there.
And then you had the Black Zillions
The
too.
Black Zillions, yes, I'm bringing actually back the Black Zillions. So it's going to be Black Zillions too.
Wow.
bringing it back. Yeah.
So what's that process like building a team? Is it just
It's a complex problem because it's bringing athletes together, but you're bringing together people that can work together really good, from athletes all the way to the coach, and it only takes coaches, and it only takes one rotten seed to kind of really bring the whole group down. So it's chemistry, to be honest, and I've been known to be a chemist, or to kind of be able to put some formulations together that work. So hopefully I'll be able to do it again. But I feel like with my guys, they kind of understand where I'm coming from, and if they don't, when they train with me a few times, they understand really quick, because when I'm in there with them, I'm in their ear and I'm preaching and I'm like, hey, this is what it's gonna be, and I'm letting them know that, there's nothing glamorous about what's gonna come through those doors, and anything you want, if you want to be that guy, then this is what you got to endure, and I'll make them suffer, and I'll make them think about quitting, and honestly speaking, sometimes practice really don't start until I see a couple of them looking for the door, and
wow?
that's just what it's about, because I want guys here that's going to be engaged and ready to give what it takes, because at the end of the day, as much as I may care about these athletes, I can't be in there to fight for them. So I got to make sure that they're willing to give everything in their power to fight for themselves.
Wow. So it's kind of about testing their why, like who's got the strongest why, like
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah,
yeah, if you can't
yeah,
answer that question, like I've trained MMA over the years a little bit, and there's definitely been times where I can't answer the why, and I'm like, why am I doing this? My arm hurts. Like
yeah,
the class is at 6 a.m. Like I don't want to do this anymore.
yeah.
And I've been unable to answer that question many times, but somehow I keep coming back to it.
I mean, here's the thing though. Sometimes the why is not even that complex. Sometimes we wait for and we want to get a complex why. Sometimes why is because I'm physically able to. And that's a blessing in itself. Being able to be physically able to put your body through what it takes to be an athlete on any level, or to exercise, or to do any of the things that we take for granted, is a blessing. To get up and walk, all those things that we just kind of become, second nature to us, but we don't understand that one day we're not going to be able to do those very things that are so simple. That's going to be taken away from us one day. And to be able to have that expression to do it is all the why that I need sometimes, right?
Absolutely. So, yeah, one of the questions I wanted to ask you is how does training in combat in the gym, how does that translate or benefit you outside the gym?
Training combat in the gym, it translates so well in life, because the way I look at life, and I don't really see too much of a difference, to be honest, because the combat in the gym, it's on a physical level, but the combat in life is on a mental level, right? And you got to be just as mentally tough as you are physically tough inside the gym. So that they mirror each other very well, and being able to be a winner in life, right? Because it's one thing to be a winner in a cage, but to be a winner in life is very tough, because it requires an accountability that a lot of people may not want to have all the time. You know, Sometimes it's fun to not be accountable for a while and have a few drinks and just kind of lose yourself in a moment and things like that. And I totally get that, and I totally understand that. But if you have too many of those moments, then you're growing further and further away from yourself, and that's when the problem becomes, right? So finding a way to keep your feet on the ground, and at the same time still enjoy your life, it remains to be a challenge. But when I look at life and I look at, you know, what I've learned inside the cage and how it helps, it's all about perseverance. It's all about, you know, maybe today I don't get that, that yes today. Maybe today I don't get that win today, but guess what? I keep on fighting. I fight on, and now that I'm in my second half of life as far as like career speaking, I've been trying a few things out, trying a few different, life careers out and trying to get businesses going, and it doesn't always go my way. And sometimes I have some setbacks, and I've lost money, and I've had a bunch of different things happen to me along the lines of business and life. But I just keep pushing and plugging away because I know uh it all comes around, but it comes around because I keep on pushing. I keep my nose to the grindstone, right? If I didn't keep on pushing, if I just said, "Oh man, I failed," and decided to give up and decided to tuck my tail between the legs, then yeah, then that may become the story of my future success. But if I keep, if I take a lick and I say, "Okay, that's just one thing," and I keep on pushing, then I'll be all right. So the key, just like in fighting, as in life, you just got to keep on pushing. You just got to keep on going, and you don't stop.
Man, that's motivation. Yeah, I'm gonna like rewatch this interview many times because that's yeah, that's it right there. When you just said it. And
Yeah,
yeah, truth be told, I'm not the greatest interviewer. So
that's all good, man.
thanks
That's
for
all
bearing
good.
with me. But
No, Mark, you're doing your thing, man. I appreciate the questions.
thank God you're so good at answering these questions. But I got some more questions. Here's an open-ended one. Are you optimistic about the future?
I am optimistic about the future. I truly believe and I know, and that's why I can be 100% confident about this and be optimistic about the future. I know that everything's going to be okay. And that was my biggest apprehension about being optimistic about the future, is the fact that, you have some dark days and you just don't know how things are going to go. But from what I've been able to experience, and from what I've gleaned from the medicine, uh, that everything's going to be okay. And that there's something so amazing that we're a part of. And perspective and this journey is really keeping us from really being able to uncover it, because I say that because a lot of people don't look deep enough inside themselves to get the kind of gnosis, right? The gnosis that you need to have that understanding that everything is literally everything. And there's this fabric that we all share of connectedness that can never be broken. And it can't even truly be understood with this conscious mind, because everything in this dual experience that we have right now is meant to shield us from this understanding. But me having had the experiences of getting a glimpse of that feeling, I know that everything is going to be okay. So I look at life very optimistically, and I know that we all going to be all right.
Wow, I mean, you stepped in the cage with some of the baddest people on earth, and you've come out clean as a whistle. So you must have an optimistic perspective. Yeah, I guess I asked that question because I read a lot of YouTube comments. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
it's one of my bad habits, but I can't help it. I got to read all the comments,
yeah,
and there's quite a bit of negativity, and a lot of comments have this very bleak outlook on the future, and it's a little sad. And one of my favorite quotes is that our our um our opinion of the world is a confession of our character.
Yeah.
And I'm certainly guilty of that. I used to
Yeah.
kind of have all these doomsday fantasies, and many of my videos do spell out these horrible, some of my videos I want to highlight like philosophy and the lighter side of life and gain perspective, but then other videos I really want to focus on a specific cause of suffering and what we can do to alleviate it or fix it. And whenever you put out one of those videos, everybody's saying, oh, this is the end of the world. It could be literally any topic. It could be plastic, oh, that's going to destroy our testosterone. It could be
Yeah.
climate, that's going to be the end. It could be the financial. Every single category has its own doomsday scenario. And I
Yep.
almost think that's a little bit of a like a narcissistic, like we want to believe that we're living at the end of time, you know
Yeah.
to fulfill some fantasy, like we're the center of the universe and it ends with us. But a different perspective is we could be at the very beginning of
Yeah.
civilization.
Yeah.
So
I
that's
mean, we need, as crazy as it sounds, is that, this is this is um an experience where there's duality, right? And duality is truly what makes this an experience, because without duality, you wouldn't be able to gauge anything, right? If you didn't have cold, then you wouldn't be able to judge hot, and vice versa. So this duality and this experience that we have, it is truly just made to give this experience the texture that it has, right? So when we encompass, or when we, I'm sorry, encounter the darkness, that's okay, because it's up to us to do what we came here to do, which is transmute that darkness. And that's why we're experiencing this darkness, because we refuse to transmute it. We want to ignore it, but we have to transmute the darkness, and transmuting the darkness is facing it. So once we are not afraid to face the darkness, we're able to transmute it and turn it into light. And once we're able to do that, then we'll see that that darkness that was given to us was a gift for us to truly bring out the light in us. And that's the spiritual growth that we're all going through on this planet, not right now. You know, we live in a culture where gnosis, learning the self, isn't really spoke about, and it's not really valued. But there was a time in existence when gnosis was the highest order in the world. To know thyself was the absolute best thing that you can do, because when you truly know yourself, then you have the secret to the universe. And I say that in respects to, when you know yourself, you know your connection to everything that exists, and you start to see things differently.
Man, that's brilliant. Yeah. And that's, like you said, just peeling back those layers. And you peel back one layer, there's always going to be another layer. There's another quote by Rumi that I love. I I searched for myself and found only God. I searched for God
Mm,
and found only myself. So
that's true.
it's like as above, so below. That
Yeah,
duality.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep,
I
that's
just did
that
a video
duality.
on. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying, yeah, I was repeating you. That's that duality. That's a beautiful quote.
Yeah, I just did a video on the Hermetic principles, and it's
Oh,
all about duality. And there's 7 Hermetic principles, but really, after illustrating the principles and really meditating on them, you kind of realize that it's all just one principle, and
yeah,
it's all just a frequency. And it's,
Yeah,
the more you go into suffering, the higher the peak of the wave will be on the other side. And it's,
right.
yeah, and like you said,
Yep.
if you do that mediocre, you don't experience anything. You don't experience the high or the low.
Yeah, and that's what I was talking about when I was saying there's something beautiful on the other side of suffering, right? That wave that you're talking about, you know? That's exactly it.
And it's like that pleasure pain balance. Like you can dig into pain and then experience the pleasure on the other side of it, or you can push into pleasure and there's going to be pain on the other side of that.
Yeah. Yep. Been there.
So I guess what are some healthy ways of leaning into pain that you would recommend?
I would say healthy ways of leaning into pain is getting connected with it and truly understanding why it's painful, right? Because sometimes things are painful, but you haven't really sat with it long enough because it makes you feel uncomfortable. So you don't really assess why it's even painful in the first place. But once you sit with it and you kind of chew on it for a little bit, you're able to take the sting out of the pain because you're able to put it in a perspective that takes away its power. And what pain's power is making you avoid it. That's the power of pain. Pain is something that it makes you want to avoid. So it becomes a phantom. It becomes that thing that you start to fear more than the experience itself. So now you get more afraid of just even the thought of experiencing pain. But if you when you actually experience the pain, it's never as bad as you thought. You know what I'm saying? Your mind always makes it worse. So I think when it comes to just being able to put pain in its proper place, you just gotta face it and you gotta be able to, you know, take your time with it because some pain is harder to digest than others. But it all starts from a healing basis of being able to confront it when you're able to dismiss it. Write it down. I'm a person who has to write it down. Like for me, I write the spell. When I write, it's just like it adds another something that I really can't even explain, but it's like magic when I start to write and I really start to put those thoughts, those feelings into paper, it changes things, for me. So I would say just write it down and get connected to that pain.
Absolutely. Yeah, there is something about writing that's very therapeutic, and it's kind of like in our mind, our thoughts are usually not complete. We kind of have part of a thought and then we move on to the next one. But when you write, you really need to deliberately finish those thoughts, you know?
Yes, you do. You have to. Yeah, because here's the thing about it, like, and one of the things that I really like about it is like when I have to write something, I have to think about how I'm going to articulate it when I write it. So when I'm writing it, I'm searching my mind to try to write a way to make it make sense. And as I'm doing that, I'm having to make it make sense, right? I'm having
Right.
to have it make sense to me in order for me to write it down. So I become my own therapist in a sense, just finding a way to write it down and to say, okay, this, and then I'm able to see it for what it is.
That's so true. Yeah, so I guess I'd love to talk about your new venture with Umbo. Is that how you pronounce it?
Yeah, yeah. With
Yeah.
Umbo, it's functional mushrooms, and you know it. This functional mushrooms is part of my medicine journey. Part of what really kind of brought me out of the fog and things like that. I was pretty nervous coming out of my career because I took some damage inside the cage, and I had one report come back from when I was trying to fight in New York City that didn't allow me to compete because it said that something came back on my MRI that was kind of, it kind of raised some concern. So I didn't know what my future was going to be outside of that. And I had, was thinking about retiring, and I was, doing the analyst work. So I'm like, dude, I don't want to be trapped in my own body. So I was really thinking of ways that I can heal my brain. And I run into this interview with Paul Stamets, and Paul Stamets, talks about this 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 stack that he does with psilocybin, lion's mane, and niacin. So I get on it and I try it, and I start having like amazing results. So then, you know, I really started to become a student of functional mushrooms and just mushrooms in general, and really started diving into it. And I felt like so much changed, and it was like my body was coming back to me. Years and years of putting my body just through the ringer, my body started to come back. I started to feel fresh. And that's a big reason why I was able to compete again, was because I started feeling fresh again. My knee inflammation was gone. It mitigated a lot of the inflammation. It took care of a lot of stomach issues that I had, and gave me mental clarity, and just kind of, even on a neurological basis, I felt as if like I was not only able to see the openings, but I was able to get there. As in before, I was seeing the openings, but I felt as if like I was just a tad too slow to get there. So I felt like I had a body 15 years younger. And the more I started digging into mushrooms, I started realizing that these mushrooms have such a huge history, from Chinese medicine to Ayurvedic medicine, and I really started to dive into the X's and O's about all these different compounds in the mushroom that really do great things for your health. Turkey tail for your gut health, and with your immunity, because like 80% of your immunity comes from your gut. And the preventative factors that these polysaccharides have, and with cancer, and with lion's mane, the growth factors, and the neuroplasticity and the neuroregeneration that these things do. It was just like, man, I know that a lot of people can definitely definitely use uh, a big boost in what the mushrooms can bring, because we live in a society where we completely are inundated with all kinds of environmental toxins, toxins in our food, toxins in our water, and we're constantly just, now even toxins even on an electromagnetic basis, right? With all these frequencies of 5G and all these different smart devices out, just really adding more toxicity to our overall environment. So having something to combat that, having something to really eliminate, some of the, stresses that comes along with these toxins, mushrooms do that, and they do it without leaving residue in the body. And that's, for me, was a huge thing, because when I look at a lot of like pharmaceutical supplements, for the most part, they can't go in your body without leaving something, without leaving a residue that causes a side effect. Because in order for a pharmaceutical to be able to patent their drug, they have to use binding agents. And these binding agents are most of the time not from nature. So you're having these binding aspects of these medicines that really stick to the body and really causes further damage. So when it comes to getting older and truly allowing your body to function how it should, as a system, and not as a compartmentalized entity, as you see the medical field cut it up as it, then mushrooms truly do that for you. So uh we were all on board with Umbo, and myself, Jake Plummer, and Del Jolly. We really want to bring together a product that helps people take control of their health and put it back into their own hands.
Man, that's awesome. Yeah, I ordered some the other day. It hasn't gotten here yet, but the website looks really cool, and it was cool to see some other fighters on the giving their testimonials. I think Corey Sandhagen was
Yeah.
there. He's a
Yep.
really thoughtful guy, and Yeah, if you ever came out to if you ever go mushroom foraging, let me know because I love doing that.
All right, man. You
Yeah.
know what? I gotta have you come out to Colorado one of these times and meet some of my people out there. I think you'll have a great experience because I got a feeling that you'll fit right in with us, man. And mushroom foraging and doing those kind of things, we love doing that. Jake Plummer has a mushroom farm. He has a mushroom farm now, and that just goes to show how invested Jake Plummer is into the whole thing, and how moved he is by the whole thing. So it's truly something that I feel like with the mushroom game, I feel like a lot of people are going to start to understand it and really start to get on board with it because, you know, if you look at the nation's health, there's we have an explosion of neurological illness, explosion of all kinds of, you know, health problems that are linked to things that functional mushrooms can help. Functional mushrooms can truly help a lot of these things that people are suffering with. And it's truly something to be experienced because this is a whole entire food group that we just don't use or don't eat or don't really understand. But over in Asia, they prescribe them, their doctors prescribe them, so they understand the history behind them and they truly understand that these mushrooms they give our bodies exactly what they need.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think there's a fear because they're not like other plants. They kind of one day there's nothing there, and then the next day there's a huge patch of mushrooms. I've been
Yeah,
uh, I've been growing them myself, and I think it is important to be involved in the growing process, especially if you're gonna. I feel like the psychedelic experience is much more rewarding if you are involved in growing or cultivating what you're taking. Because
yeah,
if you just go to like Jack in the Box and some guy hands you a bag and then you go and take it somewhere, that's not, you don't really even know what you're taking. But I grew my own psilocybin last year, and when they were finally ready and I took one, it was a much different experience than not knowing where it came from. And
yeah.
yeah.
Totally, man. Like, I often think like I've had this realization one time, or I guess this epiphany when I was deep on a trip one time. So, like, these mushrooms are so potent and they have a way of opening our mind and resetting us on a level that nothing else can. And I thought it was because, you know, mycelium, they are like the Wi-Fi boosters for the plant life, right? So the roots of the trees and all the plants are under the ground, but the roots and are just like the brains of the trees, right? And the plants, that's the brains, the roots, right? And the legs are and the limbs are like what sticks out of the ground, right? That which we call the plant, but the brains are what's in the ground. And they pass nutrients, they pass information, all by which the mycelium kingdom. So the mycelium kingdom has been getting all kinds of information from these trees for so long. And imagine how think about if these trees could speak, what they'll say about this earth. What the plant kingdom will say about this reality that we're in, right? And what kind of information they have from just a natural standpoint and from a beginning of existence, right? And when you eat that mushroom, you're eating that information, you're eating that data. So when you eat that mushroom, that data is going through all your cells. It's going through, for the very fabric of who you are in your DNA and all those things. And you're getting a download. And when you get a download of what, of that, a glimpse and into history, you're getting a glimpse into, what it is to be like one of these trees. You know what I'm saying? Just to know that you're part of everything all at the exact same time. It's truly one of the most amazing experiences. But I will highlight that's another powerful thing that the mushroom can bring.
Wow, that's awesome. And do you recommend everybody experiment, or is there a caution that we should approach these with?
I say there's a caution, but let me just be totally honest here. You know, all we are is consciousness. That's all we are. We have this physical body, temporarily speaking, but what we truly are, it exceeds the physical, and it's consciously speaking. The world begins and ends with you opening your eyes and you making sense of it. You know, for each and every single one of us. So to not explore your consciousness is to not explore a part of yourself, you know, and to be able to really explore your consciousness truly allows you to spread your legs in a way that will give you a glimpse of the essence of your true nature. And we live in a world where it's everything is physical. Everything is about the physicality of everything, and everything is all physical. So we've become very physically minded people, you know, and we try to solve mental or conscious issues through physical means, and it never works. So I think we need to really tackle our conscious problems with conscious answers and explore our consciousness. And I truly believe that we're about 5 to 10 grams away, each and every single person, from world peace. Because when you go at least 5 to 10 grams, you're going to experience something that will make it very hard for you to slight the next person. Because when you realize your connection with that person or any sentient being, you immediately don't want to do any harm to anybody else.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree. So do you think if we gave 5 grams to every world leader, that would solve everything?
World peace, or had them do the toad. Oh yeah, oh yeah. If they had at least 5 grams, or had a chance to do the toad, there'll be no more problems. No more problems.
Wow, it's so cool to see that you and a couple other really badass combat athletes like Mike Tyson, like Mike Tyson is it's so cool to see his journey too, because like I've watched him my whole life, and I remember him getting in trouble when he was younger, and then I
Yeah,
remember him biting off Evander Holyfield's ear. But now he's like this wise ascended master, and everything he says
yeah,
is like poetry. You worked
yeah,
with him, right?
yeah. I worked a lot with Mike Tyson. Mike is a genius, man. Mike is a genius, and it's effortless for him. It's effortless for him. And you're talking about a person in Mike who has had so many outstanding extremes in his life. You know, he has such a good amount of information to pull from. And out of that information, out of that experience that he's had, he's been able to truly pull out of each and every single one of those situations, like what's best for him, and what's been best about it. What's been, you know, he'll go through something, he'd be like, okay, we'll see. You know what I'm saying? He's got that very um that very sage mindset, you know, where he just kind of understands that, yeah, you're gonna have some breaks that go your way, you're gonna have some breaks that don't go your way, but don't get too excited, stay even keeled, and just kind of stay humble. And that's the whole mindset of what the stay humble is, because staying humble is, we'll see. I'm not going to get too excited here. I'm not going to get too upset here. I'm going to stay right in the middle. And he's been amazing, to me, as a mentor and as a friend, to just kind of watch, because Mike is somebody who is not afraid to of anything. Mike will go through it. Mike will see something that he's afraid of, and he'd be like, "All right, I gotta conquer that until I'm not afraid of it anymore." And I feel like that's what it was about him doing the Toad, was him going through that experience enough to be like, I'm not afraid of it anymore. Because Mike has done it upwards nearly probably about maybe 50 or 70 times by now. And it's always that I want to master this. I'm not going to be afraid of it anymore. Because what I've learned through these experiences is the fact that I'm practicing letting go each and every single time that I do one of these medicines, because it's teaching me that how to let go eventually for what's going to be the hardest thing for me to let go of, which is my life. And it's grooming me for that second, that moment of having to give back this existence, and then truly be gone. Is getting me ready for that. And I know when I say that to people, like, oh man, that's kind of morbid, but is it really? I don't really feel it is, because I don't really feel like there's anything bad about dying. It's a part of life, and it's a beautiful part of life. It's a part of life that means that, we can truly have an experience beyond what we've known thus far, and then remember again. And that remembering, that feeling, oh my gosh, it's something that is inexplicable, because the moment you remember and you feel it, you're just like, it was all worth it. No matter what you've been through, you be like, it was worth it.
Well, I mean, you've certainly lived your life to the fullest. So when that moment comes, I'm sure you can look back with no regrets. But what
Absolutely.
what do you think happens after we die?
Um, I think we go back to the ocean of consciousness. And so when I did the Toad, as soon as I took a puff and the minute I let it go, I was gone. I was blasted out of my body. And the first thing I thought was, oh shit, I just killed myself. Damn, I just killed myself. And and me me feeling like that, I felt as if like I was gonna like I felt as if like it was it was over. But as I started to feel that feeling, I started having this knowingness just started to hit me. And the knowingness started to hit me as like, you've died before. You've done this before. It's okay. Everything's okay. And then the more that knowingness started to say that to me, the more I started to relax, the more I started to remember. And then this feeling of just love beyond comprehension started to hit me. And it was like the person who I love the most magnified times a trillion. It was so overwhelming, it took the breath away from me. And I remember just feeling this feeling of love that was just so magnificent, so vast. And there was just this light, almost as if like I was inside of the sun. Inside of the sun, it was just this light. And I realized that this radiant, bright light, it wasn't apart from me. It actually was me. And it felt as if like, even though I felt like I was just in this void, it felt like it can go deeper. But this void wasn't just a void, it was everything and nothing all at the exact same time. And to feel everything and nothing all at the exact same time, it was incomprehensible. And I remember sitting in that state. I don't know how long, because it felt like eternity, because I'm in a place of no time. And when you're in a place of no time, even to touch it, you are in eternity. I was eternal, and I felt my eternal nature. And when I was there, my consciousness expand beyond anything that I can even understand, to the point where it felt like I only had like a thimble of my consciousness inside of this vessel. And I remember just feeling in this space of just utter completeness, and this feeling of just like, I found it. I'm finally back home. I made it back home. And I felt just pure exuberance, just over like beyond happy. And then the minute I started to really wrap my mind around like what was happening, I started to feel darkness enclose me. And then I started to feel the light fade away. I started to feel the love started to pull away, and I started to feel wet. And then I started to feel my humanity. And I remember I was fully in darkness, in a wet, kind of cold feeling. And I came back to my body, and my eyes were closed, and I opened my eyes, and I opened my eyes to see just everything very pixelated, and to see sacred geometry all over the place. And as I looked longer and longer, it all faded away. It all faded away to it all faded away to nothingness, and to just kind of what reality kind of looks like with my waking mind. And then I was back, and I remember just having these tears. I remember just having these tears just coming down my face, and me saying, I don't want to come back. I don't want to go. Please don't go. Please don't go. Please don't go. And then when I came to, my face was all wet. And I just had this feeling as if like I was a kid and my mother just walked out of the room, and I felt like she was never coming back. It was just such a deep sadness. And then I was like, whoa, what was that? And at that moment, I knew I was not a human being.
Wow. What did you realize you were?
I don't know. It really, I don't think, I don't think this is what it sounds crazy to say. It sounds crazy to say, right? But I don't feel like we are humans. I feel as if like we are some kind of light, some kind of light. And it sounds nuts. It sounds, I don't know, unscientific, or whatever the case may be, the jargon is for it. But from what I felt, the reality that I felt, it felt more of reality there than here. and it felt as if like here was the dream and there was the actual reality.
Wow. Well, we are light. I mean, all our energy is from the sun, and
Yeah, that's
everything we eat, that energy comes from the sun, and every single movement is just sun energy.
yeah,
Everything.
and that's a crazy thing. It's like after I had that experience, like all I could like I would feel the sun different. Like I would feel the sun different. The sun would hit me, and it was almost as if like it was going through me, penetrating me on the level in which I never felt before. And even now, when I go into the sun, it feels different. And after that whole experience, everything changed. Everything changed. And yeah, I feel it. I feel my connection to the light.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. And
No doubt, man.
that deeply resonated, that whole story. It was quite a journey. And man, it's so cool because you have this in the cage persona, or this version of Rashad that we know, and then you've just gone so deep on this other side. It's
Yeah.
really inspiring.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been something that I've been really happy about, just kind of going through it, you know. And it's been something to me that there's always a level to unfold, you know, like as much as I feel as if I've gained and I've learned, there's still so much more to learn, you know. And that's the exciting part about it, is the fact that you just never reach that point where you know it all, you know. And that's the point, right? I'm glad. I'm glad, you know, like, you know, you don't got to figure it out. It's like the more I think I have it figured out, then I have like a lesson and like, bop, smack me on the head. He'd be like, no, you still don't got it, you know? And that's the exciting part for me.
Yeah, that not knowing is kind of just like being open to any possibility.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And when you think you know something, you're almost like your body gets tight, and
Yeah.
you feel like you got this weight constricting you.
Yeah.
Um, man, that's awesome. Maybe we can transition. I only have a few more minutes, but
Yeah. Absolutely.
there's a lot going on in the fight world right now.
Hmm.
And really quick, maybe what's your take on what's going to happen this weekend with John Jones?
Mm. Well, I think John kind of already tipped his hat on how he's going to fight Cyril Gahn. He did an interview and he said, "I'm going to make it look easy." And the only way that it's possible for John to make this look easy as if he takes him down and he follows Francis Ngannou's method of victory, which is takedown and ground control. Um, if he doesn't get that, it could be some problems for him. And I say that because John Jones does a really good job of stalking his opponents down and using his reach as a way of controlling and really dictating what his opponent's going to do next. But he's had a really hard time lately in the last couple fights when his opponents have had great movement on the outside and don't really allow him to tie up with them or use his reach to really establish the range and then further his attacks. So I feel like the movement of Cyril Gahn is going to add some serious problems, and the power of Cyril Gahn is going to add some serious hesitation. So I feel like it's gonna be a dogfight for John, but it's hard for me to go against him, man. So I'm gonna pick John in this one. But I could clearly see a reality in which he gets upset big time.
Yeah, yeah. Cyril Gahn he's no joke. I watched his fight with Francis. I was there at the stadium last year,
Yeah.
and that was
Oh, you went to it? You
I
went
was
to it?
there. Yeah, I was actually,
Okay.
really close to Mike Tyson,
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
Dwayne Wade was there. It was my first UFC event, and that was really cool. But yeah, Francis picked him up like a rag doll at one point and just slammed him. That was the highlight of the fight.
I mean, to be honest though, to think about this though, I mean, if he's able to turn a crazy striker in Francis into a wrestler, then he must be doing something on his feet that's truly making people feel uncomfortable, right? That means that it's just not only fancy finesse movement. That means that he's hitting with a little bit of stank, right? And he's got some angles that are hard to see, and he's got some things that are hard to deal with on his feet. Because I mean, that's the only way I can think of if you're Francis Ngannou choosing to fight a harder fight, which would be the wrestling fight, right? You know what I'm saying? Like you made a guy like Francis Ngannou choose the harder path to victory. You must be doing something on your feet that's pretty nasty, and it's going to be interesting to see how what Serial does stack up to what John Jones has seen in his past and what John can deal with at this point in his career, because this isn't John Jones that fought me, you know, 12 years ago or 10 years ago or whatnot. This is an aged John Jones who, have gotten better mentally speaking, but physically speaking, not the athlete that he used to be. And he never will be the athlete that he used to be physically speaking. So where does that leave him? You know? Where does that leave him? How's he gonna be?
Right. Well, that's the thing about fighting is it's like it's very hard to predict. I feel like.
Yeah, it is. It is hard to predict, and that's the part that I love the most about it, man. That's what I love the most about fighting is the fact that it's so hard to predict because I've been on that end. I've been on that end where it's hard to predict like what's going to happen, right? And you come out with that big victory, and you just like, hey, I told you guys not to doubt me, you know?
Right, like you versus Chuck Liddell. Wasn't Chuck Liddell
Yep.
a pretty big
Chuck
favorite?
Liddell was a big favorite. Rampage was a big favorite.
And then you
Uh,
just, I mean, that was the knockout
most
of the year.
Yeah, most of my fights I've been in there and I was always the underdog for the most part. And that's what I pretty much made my career on, just being that dog, you know, and training with that dog mindset. And being the dog, training with the dog mindset, you're willing to do anything. Like I will go into a fight sometimes and I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna win, but I guarantee one thing. This motherfucker is gonna feel me. He's gonna feel me. And think about that. Like, if you go into a fight with somebody and say, you know what, I don't know if I'm gonna win, but guess what? This dude is gonna know he's been in a fight. The guy who's just fighting to he's in a fight, he fights at a different rate. He fights at a different speed. He fights at a different tenacity than the guy who's trying to win. You know what I'm saying? Because the guy who's trying to make sure this guy feels him, he's gonna take he's gonna take some risk. He's going to take some risk. He's going to take risks that the guy who's just trying to win may not take because he's just trying to win.
Right. I just watched your fights with Tito,
Yeah,
and Tito came out and he had this aura about him that he was invincible, and he kind of thought he was just gonna do his thing against you. And by the end, I remember the interview after he said, "I felt him break," because at the end
yeah,
you had him and he gave up. And then the next time you
yep,
guys fought, you seemed to run through him. And
yeah. Because you know why? I remember what I felt, and I remember how to get there, and I knew like if like he's going to be hard. Like Tito Ortiz, he's got he's probably one of the strongest guys I ever fought. He's strong as hell. And he's got a big head and he can take a big shot. Like it's hard to knock Tito out by punching him in his head. He can take a good punch. And he's got really good wrestling base. But I knew if I push him to that point where he was uncertain, he will quit.
he did. That was That was
Yeah,
awesome because he did start to break at the end, and I love that you called that out in the interview afterwards.
yeah.
Yeah, I think
Thanks,
that
man.
definitely stuck because it's such a mind game.
So
Yeah,
much is, so much is, man.
yeah. And that was bizarre. The first fight was a tie. That was weird.
Yep, I know.
Yeah.
That was just me not being too sure, like I went in there and I got so caught up in the whole hype of everything. Oh, Rashad, you're gonna beat him, this, that, and the other. And I got so caught up in the hype of everything that I stopped. I didn't really I didn't really do my homework on him as much as I should have. Like sometimes you can be in a camp and the camp of the people in there can really, you know, kind of taint your mindset. And when I was in camp, everybody's like, oh man, Tito, he's going downhill. He's not what he used to be. And I started to like slowly but surely that started to sink in, right? That started to creep in. And then, I allowed it to creep in a little bit. And then once it did, it was in there. And I remember in the fight, as soon as the fight happened, he throws a big kick, throws me off balance. Didn't expect that. Okay, then he takes a shot. Okay, I kind of expect that. He takes me down. I try to get up. I can't move. Like, I can't even squirm. This dude is so strong. And I look across the cage and I see my coaches just like, get up, get up, get up. And I was just like so pissed off. I'm like, you guys lied to me. You guys lied to me. This dude is strong as hell. I can't get him off me. And I don't know what's going to happen because this dude is not the person who I thought I was fighting, and I had to really go through that whole process in the mind. I was going through like a full tantrum out there, just being upset because it was just, he was a lot different than I thought. So I had to make adjustments in the fight to kind of snap out of that. But yeah, it's like that sometimes, man.
Yeah, you definitely did though, because by the end
Yeah.
he was broken, and I think he was like 225 pounds or something in that fight.
Yeah,
And
he was a big dude, man.
you were always fighting bigger guys. Like you weren't known for
Yeah.
being like a big weight cutter.
No. And if you even like, and every time people see me, they're just always so surprised, like, wow, you're a lot smaller than I thought. And I used to get offended behind that, but I feel like that's part of my superpowers. You know what I'm saying? That's part of what made me me. And it reminds me of, you know, a quote that I got from Dan Henderson. And I was a big Dan Henderson fan. And when Dan first came over to the UFC, I'm just like, damn, Dan, you're smaller than me, man. Like, how do you do it? How do you face all those big guys and beat them? He says, you know what? It's because I'm big in here. I'm big in here. And I was like, damn, you're right, man. That's me too. I'm big in here too. So ever since then, I really like, I didn't look at me being small as kind of like a little something that I should be ashamed of. It was always like, yeah, I'm that's right, I'm small. Fight me, you know what I'm saying? And think that because I'm small, that I can't be strong or whatnot, you'll be surprised. And a lot of times people they lock up with me. They're just like, dude, what the hell? I never expected you to be so so strong or how you are.
Yeah, did you ever think about like going the extreme weight cutting route and trying to get down to like 170 or something?
I did for a little bit, and then I remember Anthony Johnson when he tried to cut weight to fight 185, and this is after he was already like at maybe 220, and he was going to try to make 185. Uh, that weight cut almost killed him, man. Like he was really sucked out really bad and really drawn out, and I'm like, I didn't choose this for that, and that's another reason why I never really cut weight like that was because my whole wrestling career, I cut a lot of weight. I cut a lot of weight, and truth of the matter, like the juice just wasn't worth the squeeze, because I made the weight, but I didn't have the energy that I wanted, that I needed, and everything else like that. And I'm a fighter, or I'm an athlete who moves around a lot, so I need to have a lot of energy. And if I'm cutting too much weight, then I'm cutting into my ability to move around a lot. So then I'm cutting into my ability to do whatever that I'm trying to do. So for me, it's always like I got to keep my weight as natural as possible.
Yeah, that's awesome. Man, I wish we could chat more because
Yeah, man.
I got a ton of questions and
Well,
but
we'll chat again, man. We'll
yeah,
definitely chat again.
and yeah, I'm really excited for the future ahead of you because like this Umbo company looks awesome, and I think the sky's the limit. You know, there are no limits. You know, I think that's going to be a great venture, and a lot of athletes and anybody's going to be drawn to it. I'm sure Paul Stamets, he'll get a hold of some of those bars. And
Yeah.
yeah, once I get mine, I'll definitely shout it out. But I
Thank you,
really
Mark. I
appreciate you taking the
appreciate it,
time.
man. No problem, Mark. Hey, let's stay in contact, man. I would love to meet you out in Denver sometime. Maybe we'll
Yeah, let me
explore some
know. You know, I've
consciousness
never been to
together, you know?
Denver, but
Oh, you never been? Okay, yeah, we gotta definitely we'll definitely do something, man.
awesome, awesome. Well, yeah, I'm a big fan of yours, and I'm really rooting for you. So
All
thank
right,
you,
man. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. I'm a big fan of yours too. And I look forward to hearing from you again.
thank you. Keep in touch.
All right, man. Peace.
Take care.
Peace.